Hey folks, how's it going? So I've got an article that I want to talk to you about real quick. I'm not going to read the article, but I will include it in the description of this video. But it comes from porkbusiness.com. The title of the article is First Swine Influenza Vaccine to Use Sequivity Platform is Now Commercially Available. Alright, so the first commercially licensed neuraminidase-based swine influenza vaccine is now available on the marketplace. All right, this is the first swine flu vaccine to use the mRNA technology that was developed through COVID. Now, just like with COVID, they're already on a campaign of telling everyone that there's a lot of misinformation being put out about mRNA vaccines and how it's extremely safe. There may be some risks, as with everything there are some risks, but the risks are so minimal as to really not even be worth mentioning. So it's all the familiar stuff that we've been hearing about. You know, they're in the articles that I was reading about this, when I was doing research on it, they kept talking about how in extremely rare cases, the COVID-19 vax had been associated with certain side effects. Naturally, that's the propaganda being spun around this that has been spread through mainstream media and through our politicians at unbelievable levels. You know, again, it's perfectly safe. There's no risks to it. Don't question it. If you have a contrary opinion, or if you believe something different, you're just spreading fear and you're not trusting the science and what have you. I'm starting to see all of the same buzzwords, all of the same spin on this as with anything else related to COVID-19. But let's put it simply, they've taken the mRNA technology that was used to develop the COVID-19 vax, and they've now developed a swine influenza vaccine on that same technology to use on pigs, you know, pork products. Now, they're already saying in the particular article that I referenced a few minutes ago that while you inject the pig with the vaccine doesn't actually end up in the food product. And, you know, I'm not anti-science by any stretch of the imagination, but saying that you can inject an animal with a vaccine and then process that animal into a food product and there not be any trace of that vaccine in that food is a lot like the argument that you can take a genetically modified crop like corn or soybeans, modify them so that Roundup or glyphosate will not kill that plant. That way that you can bathe that plant in gallons upon gallons of this herbicide, this chemical that's extremely toxic, and none of that chemical will end up in the plant itself and thereby in your food. We all know from basic science class in school that whatever's in the ground around that plant, the roots take up those chemicals, those nutrients, whatever's in that ground, and they take it up, it gets pulled up into the plant, and trace amounts will be found in the plant itself. That's why there was this news story out not too long ago about how high levels of mercury and other metals were found in cocoa beans. And how else did they get there but by being taken up through the root system into the plant itself? So we already know that that happens, even though the food industry here in the United States and the politicians and big corporate concerns will tell you that it can't happen. We all know it does. Much the same that they're now saying that you can inject an animal with all these vaccines and there will be no trace of that vaccine in the meat or in the milk, for example, or whatever, depending on the type of animal you're vaccinating. We all know that that can't be true, that there has to be some trace level transferred into the food product. Now, one of the quotes from this article was the gentleman that was being quoted said that once you inject the animal, it attacks the virus, and then suddenly it's all gone. Somehow, miraculously, the virus, the vaccine, it all just vanishes out of the animal's system. And even though the mRNA is trapped in the animal's cells, it doesn't get transferred into the food that you eat. They must really think that people are absurdly ignorant to fall for this stuff. I mean, that really shows you the level of their contempt and their disdain for the intelligence of the average person. That we should believe what they say against all common sense, and that we should just take it at their word and not ask questions, not have contradictory opinions or what have you. Now, this vaccine, they're promoting it. They are bragging about it right now because of the number of pigs lost to swine flu. And they're bragging that it protects against H1N1, H1N2, or whatever it is. And there's another type, H2N3, I think is what it is. But another factor that they're talking about as one of the real major benefits of this new vaccine is that because of the type of medication it is and the low dosage level that it allows them to use, they can now give this to pigs that are only 3 days old. You know, a piglet that's only 3 days old can now be vaccinated with this. Right now, they're saying that no farm, no pork producer is required or mandated to vaccinate their pigs using this vaccine. However, we all know that now that this has begun, now that this product is actually on the market, that it's only a matter of time before that's exactly the route that they will take. We already know that at some point they're going to try to mandate it for the pigs in the name of the greater good and the food supply. After all, isn't that what they did with the COVID-19 vax? They came out with it, and at first it was all supposed to be completely voluntary. And then they tried to push it on people harder and harder and harder until they were firing people from their jobs for not having the vax. They were refusing medical care or medical treatment to people that didn't have the vax. So they're following already the same process, the same propaganda and tactics that they use with the COVID-19 vax. They're already following that for this. And I don't know about you folks, but the food that I eat, I understand animals get sick, they need to be treated at times, but when you're talking about preemptively dosing them with new or experimental or even known chemicals at high rates, something is going to translate through the food and into the people that eat that food. They started working on this back in 2022. It received USDA approval back in 2022. That's how long they've been working on this. But it's just now been approved for this particular product under the Sequivity platform. So this is the first one since it was approved by, the license was approved by the USDA. Personally, I don't trust the USDA to determine what is safe to be in my food and what is not. We already know that there are ingredients and chemicals and food dyes and flavorings used in a whole variety of heavily processed foods that the USDA has approved here in the United States, but dozens of other countries around the world have banned because of their negative or harmful effects on the human body. So you can't assume that just because it's been approved by the USDA or the FDA that that means it's perfectly safe. And if you want to call me a science denier or a conspiracy theorist or whatever, you know, that I don't care. I really don't care. If a farmer has livestock that's actually sick, I can understand giving them medication for that livestock to get better. If it's something that can't be treated, I understand isolating or even culling a certain number of that livestock. But more and more these days, I'm having trouble accepting the fact that we need to be dosing our livestock from birth, it seems now, with a multitude of antibiotics and vaccinations, whether they actually need them at that time or not. So for me personally, this is a concern, and I need to do more research on it. This is another reason, though, why I tell you, build a network of people that you can barter with. People in your area that produce their own food, that raise livestock, that have farms and gardens that you can barter with, so that you have a way of knowing exactly where your food comes from, and you know what's been put in your food. Now, I'm going to leave it up to each and every one of you to decide whether or not you want to consume pork that has been treated with a similar vaccine, or a vaccine based on the similar technology as the COVID-19 vax. You know, there's enough questions surrounding that it raises some concern in me for this new vaccine to be introduced to our food supply. This is something I think that bears further research and consideration, and we shouldn't just take these people's word at face value, because we already know that there's a big revolving door between big ag, corporate medicine, and government agencies like the USDA and the FDA. You know, that people are constantly moving between being in the management and board of investors or whatever of these companies around to suddenly becoming in charge of the agencies that develop the regulations for these companies, and then back again. They're constantly going back and forth, which creates a system that is susceptible to manipulation, fraud, and it's not something that I would want to trust my food supply and thereby my health and well-being to. This is one more reason why I say grow as much of your own food as you can, produce as much of your own food as you can, and if you can't, network with people that do, people in your local area, and get to know these individuals that raise pigs, raise cattle, grow these farms and these gardens, you know, produce all this food, because you can find out from them. They'll be more than happy to tell you how they raise their livestock, how they produce their crops, whether they use any fertilizers, whether they use any herbicides, whether they use antibiotics or vaccines, or how the animals are raised. You know, that small farmers, small producers are more than happy to discuss this with you because they would love to have your business. Big ag, big corporations, they don't care. They're just going to make unilateral decisions according to what is in their best interests, not yours. With a small-time producer, small local producer, what's in your best interest is usually what's in their best interest, because they have to provide products that people want in order to stay in business. Anyway, I just thought it was important that I get this out there, because I don't think I've seen this on any other channel so far. But yeah, the mRNA vaccine that was used, technology that was used to develop the COVID-19 vax, is now being used to develop vaccines for animals. More importantly, animals in our food supply. So, yeah, take it into consideration, do your own research, make up your own judgment. You got to figure out what's best for you, folks. I know that's what I'm going to do, and I certainly don't trust the government or any of these large corporations that don't care about the individual consumer out there. They only care about their bottom line. Anyway, that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.